For most of our existence, being human did not mean being Homo sapiens. Go back 50,000 years, and the planet held several different kinds of humans at once. In Europe, Neanderthals moved through frozen landscapes with bodies built for cold and close-range hunting. Across Asia lived the Denisovans, a population so elusive that scientists first identified them from DNA inside a tiny finger bone. On an Indonesian island, another human species stood barely a meter tall and survived among giant rats, dwarf elephants, and Komodo dragons. And then there was us, Homo sapiens. Today, every living person belongs to our species. The others are gone. That sounds like a simple victory story. We were smarter, better organized, and eventually replaced everyone else. But the evidence refuses to stay that neat. Some of these humans had brains as large as ours. Some survived far longer than our species has existed. Some passed genes into living people that still affect how our bodies work today. So the real question is not why they failed, it is why only one branch remained. And the best place to begin is with the human species that seemed almost impossible to erase. Homo erectus. Homo erectus appeared nearly 2 million years ago. That is such a long stretch of time that all of recorded history barely registers beside it. They were among the first humans with long legs, shorter arms, and body proportions suited to traveling across open land. They also spread farther than any earlier human species, leaving Africa and reaching parts of Asia long before Homo sapiens existed. Their tools changed slowly, but a tool that works does not need to be reinvented every generation. For hundreds of thousands of years, Homo erectus endured new climates, predators, and landscapes. But their final populations did not control an entire continent. Some of the last known groups lived on Java. There, changing environments transformed the forests and the animals they depended on. Their world became smaller, with fewer places to move and fewer neighboring groups to replace those they lost. Homo erectus was not defeated in one dramatic moment. A species that had survived for nearly 2 million years eventually became too isolated to recover. By a little over 100,000 years ago, they disappeared from the fossil record. Then came the human species most people think they already understand, the Neanderthals. For decades, Neanderthals were treated as failed versions of us. Heavy brows, large bodies, crude weapons, slow minds. Almost all of that picture was wrong. Their compact build helped conserve heat in Ice Age Europe. They controlled fire, made specialized tools, and hunted animals large enough to kill them in seconds. Many Neanderthal skeletons contain healed injuries. That means their lives were dangerous, but also that injured individuals often survived long enough to recover. Someone was probably feeding or protecting them. They were not mindless brutes. They were another kind of human. When Homo sapiens entered Europe and Western Asia, the two species did not meet once in a final battle. They overlapped for thousands of years. They competed for some of the same animals and territory. They also had children together. That is why many people alive today still carry Neanderthal DNA. But many Neanderthal communities were already small and separated. A small group can survive one difficult winter. It struggles when several bad years arrive together. A failed hunt, disease outbreak, or the loss of a few adults becomes much harder to replace when the nearest related group lives far away. Homo sapiens may have had wider social networks, allowing food, tools, partners, and information to move across greater distances. The difference was not that one Neanderthal lost to one sapiens. It was that one population was becoming fragmented, while the other was becoming connected. By around 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals disappeared as a distinct population. Some were outcompeted. Some were absorbed into Homo sapiens. Others may simply have belonged to groups too small to survive the next crisis. The Denisovans. The Denisovans left behind almost no visible history. Scientists did not discover them through a complete skull or skeleton. They found part of a finger bone in a Siberian cave. The sequence did not match Homo sapiens or Neanderthals. It belonged to another branch of humanity. Since then, only a small number of additional remains have been identified: a few teeth, fragments of bone, and a jaw from the Tibetan Plateau. Yet their DNA suggests Denisovan-related populations once spread across a huge part of Asia. Their greatest legacy is not sitting in a museum. It is living inside people. Some populations in Asia and Oceania carry Denisovan ancestry today. Tibetan populations inherited a genetic variant associated with surviving at high altitude, where low oxygen places the body under extreme stress. This makes the Denisovan disappearance different. They may not have vanished through a clean extinction. Some groups probably died out. Others mixed with Homo sapiens and were gradually absorbed into larger populations. Their bodies disappeared from the landscape, but part of their biology continued inside ours. Then there was Homo floresiensis. In 2003, researchers on the island of Flores uncovered the remains of a human unlike anything they expected. This species stood around 1 meter tall. Its brain was far smaller than ours, yet it made stone tools and survived among dwarf elephants, giant rats, enormous birds, and Komodo dragons. Flores had been isolated for a very long time, and islands can reshape evolution. Large animals sometimes become smaller when food is limited. Small animals can grow larger when predators are scarce. Homo floresiensis followed its own path, becoming a small-bodied human adapted to a world cut off from the mainland. For thousands of years, that strategy worked, but island survival has a hidden weakness. There is nowhere else to go. A mainland population under pressure may migrate. An island population faces every drought, eruption, food shortage, and new competitor inside the same limited territory. Homo floresiensis disappeared from the archaeological record around the same broad period that Homo sapiens reached the region. That does not prove we killed them, but on a small island, even modest pressure can be enough. A changing food supply, several failed generations, or a new competitor may have pushed a limited population past the point of recovery. So why were we left? After meeting the others, the obvious answer falls apart. We were not the only intelligent humans. We were not the only tool makers, and we were not the only species capable of adapting to hostile environments. What Homo sapiens may have done better was connect more people across greater distances. A useful idea discovered by one group could travel beyond the people who invented it. A new tool, hunting method, or migration route did not have to disappear when one community died. Knowledge moved, people moved, relationships linked distant populations into larger networks. None of them were failed attempts at becoming us. They were successful humans until the conditions supporting them changed. Today, Homo sapiens is the only human species left, not because history was always moving toward us, but because our branch remained connected, numerous, and fortunate enough to survive the next crisis.